happened before.
Yeah, it's
has
never
it?
happened before. We're having some issues that we're trying to hammer out and figure out what's going on. But thank you guys for everyone that'll be joining us, and everyone will get started as we start the talk tonight on how to deal with burnout. It's something that I believe a lot of people that we know, that, I mean, anyone that you talk to, I don't care if it's spiritually, I don't care if it's in your work, I don't care if it's in friendships, everyone ends up dealing with some kind of burnout in their life. And we thought a great way to cap out the session that we've been doing this month of how to be a growing follower of Christ is a great way to be a part or to end out the discussion of how to be a growing follower of Christ. So with that being said, make sure that you are liking and make sure that you are sharing everything that's going on. Make sure you're communicating with us. As you see, it's going to be a conversation tonight, not just, we want to make sure it's a talk. Me and Pastor's got some talking points back and forth that we've already discussed a little bit, but we want you to be a part of it. And as you come in, we're going to do our best to greet you. If you watch this video later, make sure you're commenting and sharing. And if you see this is something that, you know, hey, you know what, maybe I deal with this, maybe I know someone deals with this, we encourage you to hit that share button and that you communicate these messages. We already see Miss Susan Brown is in here. We're so glad that you could join us tonight. We're glad that you can be a part of this. So with all that being said, I'm going to pray, and we're gonna just jump right in and make this thing happen.
Into it.
Yep. So, God, I just want to thank you, even despite all the technical difficulties, God, to the fact that we get to do this kind of stuff with each other, that we can be miles and miles apart, that this can be at different time periods for different people, that this is a way that the gospel can be, you know, reached to so many people, and it's so exciting to see lives transformed and life given to people, God, and that helping people become that growing follower in Christ. And I pray as tonight, as we do this, Holy Spirit, use us and allow us to speak the truth the way you want us to speak it, and help change lives, God, and help transform us along with that, and let us be challenged tonight, because this is a challenging discussion. I think it's something that over and over in our life that we end up running into, God, and I pray that we can grow, and as we discuss these things, that we do the right things. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, Miss Nancy Sensenig. Hey, Miss Beth King. We're glad that y'all could be a part of it. And I know burnout for different people look like different things. I was sharing a little bit with you right before we started. One of the times that I really felt a sense of burnout in the idea of volunteerism. I was volunteering. I was helping actually lead. I was part of the group that was leading a house of prayer where I used to be. And it was exciting, man. We did it for several years before I ultimately felt called to move here. Now, the thing is I love prayer. I don't want to make it seem like I don't, like I'm not in love with prayer, but I'm definitely more of a let's go reach the lost, let's go talk to people stuff. And this was more over us spending 2 hours praying for the city, praying, you know, over the people that were coming, praying for ourselves, just interacting with God, which I love to do too. But sooner or later, I started noticing that I didn't feel quite fulfilled. I didn't feel like it was everything that I was meant to be doing. And ultimately, I remember just one day I was sitting there and I was like, man, is this it for me? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I started, I don't want to say getting jaded, because I don't want to make it seem like I didn't want to be praying, but I almost felt out of place. I almost felt like it wasn't, I wasn't being who I was meant to be in a sense. I am a prayer, I guess you could say, but I don't know if you would deem myself as a prayer warrior. I'm definitely more over, we'll pray and we'll get to the heart of God, but at some point in time, we got to go reach the hearts of lost people. So I remember feeling that it was my time, and that I started losing passion in doing it. I started going through the motions and just showing up and helping run the scenario. And as a leader of that ministry, I felt really bad about it. But that was one of the true times that I felt burnt out. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be a part of it. It was something that I really felt almost an out of body experience. It was like I was just there, but I wasn't checked in. And I know that's when I started really being more conscious about what I committed myself to, because I didn't like that feeling. I'm a all in or not. Me and you talked about that earlier. I'm the type of personality that probably deals with burnout more than not, because I'm all in or not. And it felt bad that I wasn't all in, but I was still there. And I know it's something that I think a lot of us end up dealing with is that we do stuff and we're not all there and we're not all connected because we just said yes, but we're not. That's not who we're meant to be. So I know that's some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. So.
Yeah, well, what we're going to look at then, and you're coming from a more practical, experiential standpoint from your own experience and people around you. Obviously, I've been studying psychology for years, and I see burnout in a much bigger, more physiological, more spiritual, more emotional, and more in that psychomedical field area.
So you're smarter about this than me, and I am not.
No, it's the way you look at things.
No, it's perspective.
I think this is good because we can talk practically here, and we can also talk, what are some of the mechanics of it? What does it look like? If we feel like we have it, what do we do? Just live with it. How long is it going to last? You make it sound like it didn't last very long for you.
I know it lasted about a year. That's the
whole year.
Yeah, for almost a whole year of being at that ministry. The downside was, like, I'm committed because I told someone I'd be committed, but it was like a slow drain. Like when I realized it, I was still like, well, I'm going to push through this because that's just who I am. Yeah. But then it became this slow drain. By the end of that year, it was just sort of like I was showing up later. Once it was done, I was out, kind of thing. Yeah. So and I didn't, honestly, Pastor, until I moved here, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix that. So
ministry just didn't turn your crank at that time.
Not at all, not in that way.
Was gone, and the vision was gone, and the excitement was gone, and it was like, I've got to do this, rather than I'm excited to do this.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get up out of bed. Now it's, do I have to get up out of bed to do this? And a lot of you have experienced, days like this. But one thing that's really concerning, because usually, all of us have a bad day.
Oh, definitely.
There are days, a lot of days, I don't want to get out of bed. Some days, I can't wait to get out of bed because I'm not sleeping good. Other days, I can't wait to get out of bed because I'm excited about, what we're going to do today. But burnout is a real syndrome. It's a real psychological, spiritual, even physical thing that happens to us. And if we don't recognize what it is, we can attribute it to the wrong things. We could attribute it to God. We could attribute it to ourselves failing. We could attribute it to others putting too much on us. Or we can be too hard on ourselves.
It's my fault that I'm burned out. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you catch a cold, and whose fault is it? And I didn't take my vitamin C or whatever. We start blaming ourselves for it. Burnout is real. And it needs to be recognized when it happens. And the earlier we can treat it, the earlier we can deal with it, the quicker we can get on with our everyday life and be more productive and that kind of thing.
It's one of those things that I know, like, as we talk about it, it's like I felt bad and I would beat myself up because I felt like I wasn't doing my part enough anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, I shouldn't feel like this. I should be helping people. And too many times when we get burnt out, the frustration starts to build inside of us. I'm frustrated about the situation. Then on top of that, I'm frustrated at myself because I'm frustrated at the situation.
We feel like a failure. We feel like we're failing ourselves. We're failing our family.
It's compounded.
Everybody.
And then it makes me apathetic. It can bring on depression, anxiety, and then it can make me just not care. Like, I don't want to, fine, I don't care. I don't want to do it anyways. I'm done with everything. And then that's a whole new slew of problems. So we want to help you figure out how, I guess the S curves. How do we help you before that drop happens for you to pick up the right things?
How do you get there? How do you get out of there? What we have to do in the meantime.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about, you said we're going to talk about this. An interesting parable came up in my mind. I've never thought of it in this context before, but I do believe it kind of shows a picture of that. And it's all of us are probably familiar with the parable of the 10 virgins. And in Matthew chapter 25, just let me read it, and you tell me, see if you can see this in your life in a spiritual place, okay? Okay, Jesus, this is one of his last sermons before he goes to heaven, and he was you know, he's really warning us about getting slack before the Lord comes. You know, not to give up, just be faithful, keep doing what we're supposed to be doing. And so he says, he uses this parable. He says, then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. And those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. Now, but while the bridegroom was delayed, they slumbered and slept. And at midnight cry was heard, behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him. And then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to them, give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out. But the wise answered and said, no, lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather and go and to those that sell and buy some for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. So, you know, there's something interesting about this. When you look at the 10 virgins at first, they all look great. You know,
Yeah.
They're virgins. They're
all on the same playing field in a sense.
And their lights are shining. They've all got lamps. They've all got oil. Everything is looking great in their life. And so they all had the fire, we could say, in their life. Maybe you've been there. You know, you're believing God's coming again, or you believe God's about to do something in your life, or is doing something in your life.
Yeah.
And you're in there. But sometimes, you know, day after day, through the drudgery, God doesn't seem to have showed up yet. You know?
Yeah.
We're waiting. We believed that he was going to come right away, and that we were going to have this big party. You know, we were going to have this big success as Christians, and most of us experience those seasons in our life where it's just like nothing's happening. You know, I'm not seeing any, from our perspective, I'm not seeing any fruit of
the move I've been waiting on.
Yeah.
It seems like it's drawn out, it's prolonged, or like I like how this is, or maybe I've already missed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, did I slumber too long? Did I do something? And like you said, it's we all with God, with that grace, there's that level playing field that He gives us, but it's one of those things that fire that we have. I mean, I remember when I was first saved. I got saved here in this building. I remember when I first got saved. I mean, there was a fire that I had that was like none other. But life happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to put it other than that. And
it does.
And for these people, life was going on.
Life was going on. They had this big dream. They had this big expectation.
Yep.
They were excited about the time that we actually see the fruit of our labor.
Yep.
And get to go into the big celebration. And you know, you've experienced that before. Why something just happens and our fire goes out, and we are looking for, how can I get my fire started again?
Yeah, we're looking for the flint. We're looking for the oil.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple things here that like when you passed it on to me, you said, hey, the 10 virgins, and I looked up Matthew 25, and I was reading it today too. I thought of a couple different things in the idea of burnout. I think sometimes what happens with our fire, I know for me at times, is when it comes to just life. Like I said, we could compare it to ministry. I've done a lot in ministry, but just in life in general, we try to be good people. We try to help people, and what ends up happening is like they even said, well, I can't give you any because if we give you any, we're not have enough for all of us. But too many times in our life, and I believe, and I know for me, too many times in our life, we want to be good Christians. We want to be good, growing followers of Christ, and we help people until our bucket's empty.
Yeah.
And I had an analogy to one of my buddies one time that was really, he was in the ministry and he was dry. He would say, the best way to put it, Pastor, man, I got nothing left to give. And I said, man, I think the main problem is for you is that you find someone in the desert and you have your bucket of water.
Yeah.
And you give them all that water, and then you go, well, I'm strong enough to run back to my oasis, fill it up, and keep on taking it back to them. But the catch is somewhere in between where they're at and your oasis, it's still desert, and you're out of water.
He should have left some water in the bucket for himself.
Exactly.
Right?
Or you pick the person up and you help carry them to the oasis. But too many times in our life, we take on the burdens of others, and we try to give them the water we have. Or again, like they said, we try to give them the oil we have, and we realize that all it does is burn out both of our lamps.
Because used to when I'd hear this parable, you know, as a child you hear it and they say, well, those girls are being selfish. They're not sharing their oil, you know. But they were wise because they knew that they wouldn't. I can give so much. I can let the light shine so much. But there comes a point where I can't help you anymore. You're going to have to help yourself.
Yeah.
I went to the store and got me some, and that's why I'm okay now.
We all had oil at home. I brought a little extra. You didn't. I like how Kathy even said it earlier. Kathy Rivera. She goes, "We need to develop self-care before burnout occurs." I think that's one of the biggest things.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Is we. It's not that our bucket has a hole in it. It's not that we don't know where water is. It's not that we don't know where any. It's that we're more bound and determined to see the hurting helped.
Yeah.
Than help our hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we've got to fix those things.
So when you've been out there for a long time, so you're in the middle of the night, it said that all of them, it wasn't just the 5 that fell asleep. Everybody fell asleep. We have those times when we go through the dark days of our life, that dark season
where we need
life.
rest and need to stop. Yeah.
Some people it's a year. Some people it's a couple of years. Some people it's in a hospital. You know. But there, and for most it's not that traumatic. But the self-care, you know, being sure when I go, I've got my lamp. I'm supposed to have that, but I better carry another jug of oil. I don't need enough religion to get me through today.
Yeah.
I need enough to get me to the end. I don't know when the Lord's coming. I don't know when that moment will come. You know, when maybe I'm not going to have the same passion driven. You know, your emotions age too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or you go through seasons. You know,
your perception changes in life.
And so we have to store a lot of good stuff up while we can.
We've got to be able to meditate on the things that not only that we can lean on and go, okay, God help me here, but meditate on the things that God's doing in the midst of it, even when we feel in the darkness or need rest.
Yeah.
I know for me, I mean, a great thought of this was I remember as a teenager here at this church on Sunday mornings, there's a handful of people, and I mean, I could name all of them right now because they're still here at this church. I remember thinking, and I don't know as a teenager why I thought this, but I remember thinking and looking at these guys who are about the age that I am now. So I was a teenager and I'm looking about, 30, 35-year-old guys who are married with families who are just, man, they're worshiping. These guys were fervent. They're loving God. These are still strong believers to this day. They're leaders here at this church. They were blossoming leaders then. They're leaders now. And I remember thinking to myself as a teenager, I hope I have that.
Yeah.
Like, because it's easy for me to be excited now. All I have is school, a job, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't have all these responsibilities. I barely had bills. And I think a lot, and I think when I talk to people and I see the ones that like we're talking about with the burnout, not having enough oil, I see the ones that I was close with that followed Christ for a long time or for a while in their life and went away. I don't give them the excuse of, oh, life happened, but I start realizing the reason that you're where you are in your relationship is that you let life happen more than you let your relationship happen with Christ. More than caring about that extra vessel of oil, you let life happen. And I think too many times we as people we give the excuse of life. Well, I haven't read or I haven't filled up my oil in a while because, I had extra time I had to spend at work. I had, I got sick. My kids got sick. My husband and me needed to work on stuff. And what ends up happening is burnout isn't, again, it's not that it's one, for me it was one specific area, but sometimes in life it's not one specific area that causes you to burn out. It's that maybe your vessel was getting poked with holes and it was.
It's a lot of different levels. I always talk about body, soul, and spirit. And it can, maybe we're not keeping up our spiritual life like we ought to.
Yep.
Maybe we're not taking care of our body, eating properly, exercising properly, sleeping properly. Maybe we're not keeping up our social life. We're listening. Our social life is the TV talking to us instead of other humans, or whoever's talking to us is talking from a totally different culture that what is healthy for us.
Yeah.
And so. All of those get layered on top of each other, and it'll have some tragedies to happen. Have something to. You make a mistake, and you have to make it right. you lose your job.
A loved one dies or something like
Yeah.
that, and
You plan. You're waiting for that letter to come in the mail that says you're going to a Ivy League school, and the letter comes and it's not there, and all of a sudden you feel like the world is over because this one school didn't count you worthy enough, and you feel like you're the worst person in the world when only about 200 or 300 people in the whole world get to go to this school every year. But
I think like right now, like a lot of people, and when I think of specifically burnout right now, I know a lot of people are burnt out on what we've had to deal with since 2020 with COVID. I'm burnt out on, and we were all in a meeting last night, and you made, what do you miss the most? I think a lot of people are burnt out on what they miss the most. Like it's not even it's not like I'm exhausted from doing stuff. I'm exhausted from not having certain aspects of my life. Because when you said social, I thought about that. For the last year, it's the social has been this, and we love this. I'm not saying that, but the social has been this, or maybe a phone call, or maybe nothing. And I'm burnt out from not feeling connected anymore. I'm burnt out from not having. So I've tried to keep my strength, but if anything, I'm tired. I'm burnt out on life right now, in a sense. You know what I mean? And we have to take that evaluation of those things. We have to look at these areas that we're about to move into, that Pastor has, of the three things that to look out for. Defining burnout, how to know if you're experiencing it, and how to recover from it. We're going to talk about those three specific areas. But I know burnout, because of extraordinary circumstances, can happen a lot quicker than this slow burnout. It can be this in a matter of weeks and a matter of months. It's like all of a sudden everything.
I think it's the drip in the bucket that finally gets the bucket so heavy, all of a sudden it all falls out at one time. We didn't see the weight. Snow is so light and fluffy, but if it lands on a roof doesn't have a good structure, at first it's beautiful and no problem. But after a while, as little bit by little bit, it gets heavier and heavier, and all of a sudden the whole roof caves in without you even realizing it. Didn't even know that the snow is heavy.
Yeah.
So life is that way. It's like little by little stuff falls on us, and we can handle it. We can shake off a little bit, but then it accumulates. If we don't do something about it, if we don't sweep off the roof, if we lived in a snowy area, we would probably know about that.
Thank God we don't. Let's not speak that into existence.
But there are things in our life we have to keep clean out of our life because it does build. And there are things in our life we have to have. Every time we have a storm,
you need a storm just as much as you need sunny days too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was going to say, every time we have a storm and lights go out and we're out of water, we're out of bread, I knew to get that stuff. I knew better than that, but I didn't,
Yeah.
And
I didn't think it was going to be that serious,
we
right?
didn't think it'd be that serious. We've always gotten by, it's the wrong time of the year. It doesn't snow at this time, or whatever.
Well, it's again, it's one of those things that I have friends that are all over the country. Our roads don't get salted nearly as much because we don't deal with that.
Right.
So like when they have a foot of snow, 2 foot of snow, they're still going to work because this is a normal. They're prepared for it. But if they had a hurricane, most of these people would lose their mind. We get hurricanes so regularly, we shrug it off like it's no big deal.
Yeah,
and sometimes we need to prepare. We need to constantly prepared. As not as if the storm's right around the corner, but to make sure that we don't miss out on where we're being led.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Pastor, I guess you're jumping in. How do we define burnout? What is burnout? How can we define it to start knowing?
Yeah.
And then who's the ones that are the most susceptible to burnout?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about burnout, we usually think of people that are very energetic, that have goals, that are driven. We see that happen more in them. Let's separate the two. There's burnout and there's depression. You don't have to do anything to get depression,
No.
And it happens. Depression is part of burnout.
Okay.
But burnout is different than depression because people can be depressed and function on their job and never miss a day of work and feed the family. They're not happy, don't feel good, but they can still function. When burnout comes, it becomes not just my mind driven, but my body shuts down. my mind shuts down. My relationships with everything shuts down. I just can't push through it. You know, so we're kind of attacked on all sides. You have this physical exhaustion. You have an emotional exhaustion, and you may even, you know, even spiritually, you may just feel like you're the worst sinner in the world, even though you haven't done anything wrong, and you're repenting for, you know, God, whatever it is I've done wrong, please forgive me. I don't know what it is, but so you have all of these things coming together, and it attacks our body, soul, and spirit, and our drive that we had, it goes away.
Dries up completely. Yeah.
Physically, you're tired, you're fatigued. You know, you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to go to work. You don't enjoy work. You don't laugh much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of negative outcomes, emotions, and behaviors.
What used to bring you joy now brings you utter, I guess, despair in a sense. Like you don't want to be a part of whatever burns you out. You don't want to be a part of anymore to the best of your ability. And like I said, I know that feeling. That's how I felt when I was doing that.
Yeah. So the people that are most susceptible to it are people that are driven. And what happens is you take on too much. You know.
Yeah.
You feel like I can conquer the world. I can do everything. I volunteer for this. I volunteer for that. I will speak at this place. I can pastor that church. I can, you know, I can serve other people. And so we get so much stuff, good stuff, on our spiritual plate.
Yeah.
Again, the structure.
The thing
can't
that looks
handle it.
the stuff that looks nice. The snow, like you said, snow looks nice.
Yeah.
All this stuff looks nice.
It's all good stuff in itself.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an overload.
Definitely.
And I think all of us are guilty of that on some level at some time. That we want to do better than we have done. We want to do more, and we're always expecting, you know, more out of life.
Yeah.
I can do better than that. I can do better than that. You know.
And we see, and I know I'm definitely an example of it. We see, oh well, they need help, so I might as well do it because I know I can do it, kind of stuff. And we take on, I know for me, and I say we because I'm definitely that kind of person. We take on all the extra stuff because we know we can, we do. And sometimes just because we can doesn't mean we should. I like what Kathy just said. In a sense, unintentionally, we can lead ourselves to burnout. And I think most of the time that is what happened. Is we unintentionally we burn the candle at both ends. Is the best way to put it.
Yep.
We're trying. It's not that we're trying. It's not that we consciously try to be more than what we are. I know I wasn't going, hey, I'm going to be more than what I am, but we overextend what we think we can do. I know that's what it was for me. I mean, I was a 2-year-old and a newborn at home, working 80 hours a week at my job, helping lead one ministry and running a Bible study every week. There was a lot going on for me. And I thought I was Superman, and I thought I could handle it all because, of course, I was a younger guy at that point in time. It was about 10, 12 years ago. What ends up happening is it didn't blow up in my face. I had good people to surround me with, but it definitely did take a toll on me spiritually. It took a toll on my life with my family. It took a toll at work. There was times that I'd go to work, and it was just, it's not that I didn't want to be there. I was just, all right, you guys go do this. It was nice being manager, but I felt bad about.
Almost like a zombie just going through the motion.
Oh, yeah, man.
I've got to do this. I can't stop, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not enjoying it. I'm not being successful. I'm not producing.
And like you said, it wasn't like full-blown depression. It wasn't like I was sad about life. It was like I didn't have, again, if the candle burns at both ends, once they meet together, you don't have any more light left. And that's what I felt like, is like there was never enough rest. There was never enough sleep. There was never enough, because it's like my brain was always like, well, this is the next thing. This is the next thing.
Yeah.
And again, I think sometimes the reason we're susceptible to that is because we like to help. Again, I'm the kind of person, I'm a goal-driven person, but I'm also a people-driven person. I like to help people, and I don't like to say no. I've learned to say no, but I don't like to say it. So what would end up happening was I'd say yes. And I remember my wife, a good woman, would always look and go, man, you don't need any more of this stuff. Like, you need to stop somewhere. And it takes a lot to get told that. So,
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. Um,
The
I remember um, that little chart we did one time. Urgent,
yeah, it's
yeah,
four
the
squares.
urgent, the non-urgent, and the important and the non-important. And sometimes we need to look at our life. What am I doing? There's things that are urgent that need to be done right away.
Yeah.
It needs to be done now. They go to the top of your to-do list, and so I've got to get them done. There are things that are important. It's important that I do certain things. Here's the problem. Sometimes there's urgent stuff that's not important, but it demands our time. And so, well, I'll just take care of this. It's not going to benefit me or anybody, but I've got to get it off the shelf. We take on the unimportant, urgent stuff. And what gets left out, in our life is what is important and not urgent.
Yeah.
Because if it's important for me to do things, and I think the best stuff in life falls in that category.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's important for me to do certain spiritual disciplines.
To spend time with my family, to take vacations and
Yeah.
things, but they're not as urgent as.
But it's not urgent because I got to get this done today.
Yep.
If I don't do this today, then tomorrow's going to be bad the next day. And yeah, we'll go on that vacation just as soon as I finish everything, get it lined up. And so what's important in our life, the spiritual disciplines, the family disciplines, to enjoy life, to rest,
the emotional
to relax,
disciplines, yeah. The physical disciplines, yeah, definitely.
We have to just at some point just say there's some things in our life that aren't necessary and we aren't really important to us, and we've got to let them go even though they're urgent.
If you've never seen it, and I wish we had a slide of it, this is just a talk, so we didn't.
Maybe we could do that talk.
Yeah, we need to have that talk. Maybe we'll have it one day.
Yeah.
This is just a talk. Some of this stuff isn't always planned out, but what Pastor's talking about as a staff, we've done this before. Is just imagine this big, huge square, and then you just draw, two lines, one vertical line, one horizontal line, and then you have urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And what ends up happening in our life is most of the time, the urgent that's not important, that they sort of where they meet in the middle is the things that we most of the time is where our focus goes to.
Yeah.
It's most of the things in our life isn't urgent and important. They're urgent and not important. And what happens is where those two things intersect, we ultimately find ourselves living in that area majority of the time and never taking care of a lot of the stuff that is just genuinely is just right in the sweet spot of important. And or what ends up happening is we make unimportant things urgent because it's urgent for someone else.
Yeah.
I like how one of my spiritual fathers, one of my mentors said one time, he got a phone call one night real late. He said it was like 2 a.m, and it was just this person that was just like, oh man, I need you to come over to my house right now. I need some help with this. I need some help with that. And they're going and going and going. Mm-hmm. And he said, listen, I love you. I care about you. I'm here for you. I'm your pastor, but I got a question for you. If I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I get dressed, I get ready, and I come over to your house at 7, is that problem still going to be there? Is it going to be any bigger than it is right now? Is anything going to ultimately change? The person was like, no. I mean, it's still going to be exactly the way it is now. He goes, then I'll see you at 7, and I love you.
Yeah. And
he hung up the phone. He said, you've got to realize that sometimes other people's urgent isn't your important.
That's right.
And that's where burnout, I guess that's sometimes where burnout happens is we take our important and let it take a back seat for other people's urgent, and it's unimportant to us, but it's urgent in that place. Miss Debbie said it. It says it seems wrong to say no to people who need help, but especially when you won't let others say no and you give 75 reasons why. I like how Kathy said it. You have no time sometimes to process your feelings because you're doing all this stuff. We have to become people who are just as conscious of our no's as our yeses.
Yeah.
And start consciously, again, maybe if you get time, and sometimes when you burn out, you can't get time, but sit down and draw that box. I remember we talked about that and drew that box as a staff, but as a human being, draw that box and start asking yourself when you come up to situations to prevent burnout, to prevent yourself from going through the motions of things, start asking yourself, am I doing the important, urgent things, or am I doing the non-important, urgent things that are actually taking away from...
They're robbing from from
they're poking holes in my
Yeah.
vessel,
Yeah.
and I'm losing oil. And
We're burning our oil in the wrong quadrant of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that will burn your oil and keep asking you for oil and keep milking you for oil till you're just dry. You know,
Yeah.
that well goes dry.
And then you wonder where their oil is, and you're like, "Oh, that oil I gave you, what happened?"
And you wonder what happened to me. My light's not shining now, and I don't get to go into the party.
No,
and
and
I'm not enjoying life.
we don't burn as bright as we would love to.
Yeah.
I guess the main thing is if I find myself already too late. We've talked about, what is burnout and a little bit of who's susceptible to it. Pastor, my question is, and again, coming from not just a spiritual authority in my life and to everyone that you pastor that's watching, but also from what you were talking about with the psychological analysis that you've done. What are ways to recover from burnout? Because the catch is if I'm already in burnout, I can't prevent it.
Yeah.
But I can at least recover from it. What are some things that we could look at to do to recover from burnout?
Yeah, I think first of all we need to, just what we were talking about, determine what is the source. You
Okay.
know, where is the place that the oil is leaking in my life? Just look at your life real good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may just want to keep a timeline. This is how I'm spending my life. An energy line. This is where my focus has been. This is where my thoughts have been. This is where my brain's been. And after a while, you'll figure out this is the important in my life.
Okay.
And this is the unimportant that's draining me and pulling away from. So I think determining the source, and once you know what the source is, I think some of you actually know where the source is in your life. I don't think you have to go to a therapist to figure it out. You might need to, and if you can't get there on your own, I would say also, if you're in burnout, you need to be talking to somebody.
Oh yeah.
We like to save ourselves, but sometimes it's a whole lot easier to have help in being saved and trying to save yourself. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we shouldn't depend on people. There's some things we have to do for ourselves. But when you're in burnout, you've got to have people in your life.
Well, all joints supply. That's one of the biggest things that I know the
Yeah.
scriptures say. We have to make sure, and it's always a point. Everything that we've taught always goes back to this. The community you surround yourself with
Yeah.
will ultimately help you or hinder you. And in this specific area, and I know for me, I got to move here, and God was opening up doors. Me and Pastor started meeting and talking. It's one of those things that who you surround yourself is either going to patch the holes in your vessel or poke more holes in your vessel.
That's right. And so, trying to figure out the source, there's only 2 or 3 sources, maybe more, but I would think we have to look at, how are we doing? Is it a spiritual problem? Again, is that what the problem is? Am I struggling spiritually?
Yes.
Am I not doing the things that I should be doing? And listen, there's something, we talk about doing spiritual things. There's something is when you don't do spiritual things that you need to do, like meditation, like just having a great quiet time with God daily. Doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but if that's what works for you, that's a great place. It may be at noontime, it may be at night, it may be, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't know, but all of us need that place for us to be rejuvenated where no human voices, no demands, there's nothing on the calendar. In fact, the calendar could be for you, this is my meditation time. But it needs to be meditation with God, spending time with God. And so when we prioritize those things above answering our phone every time it rings, this is my meditation time. I've got to have this. That's spiritual for us. That'll go a long way toward helping us. It's self-care. So the spiritual, and that includes obviously we've been over this in all of these studies. The prayer and the
Reading the
Bible,
Word, going to church.
But something that we don't do very well, don't teach it very well, don't practice it very well, is meditating. We like it loud, we like it strong, we like exciting ministry, but let it get quiet and soft, and we get
We get awkward.
We get awkward. We get squirmy. We get
We-
nervous.
We forget that God is in the silence just as much as He's in the noise.
He is, and he had to teach Elijah that, because Elijah was go get them, call down fire from heaven.
Yeah.
Off their heads.
Here comes the wind, here comes the storm, here comes the earthquake,
Yeah.
and God was in none of those.
Until he's out in the desert and say, Lord, just take my life. I'm no better than anybody else.
Yeah.
Just it's incredible how you can go from, to the penthouse to the outhouse so fast.
Even, and again, emotionally, how quickly that is. I think it's so wonderful that, and the Bible does such a wonderful job of that. And these are the reasons we
Great
need to,
stories that are real, that we can apply to our life.
that we look and go, these people are giants in the faith to us,
They were
but they
giants.
lived a real life. And there are some of them that dealt with burnout, and they had to. Elijah is a good example.
It's great because he got his recovery, didn't he?
Yeah, he came back, but there's that mountaintop, called out fire, everything's going great.
Yeah.
But a few verses later,
verses.
he's like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm no better than my fathers that are dead in the grave. Please, Lord, I'm through.
And we have to, like you said, sometimes we're looking for that loud noise of God when God's like, no, what you need is a little bit of silence. I think in this culture and this generation at this time, noise is our biggest enemy,
I think so.
because
Not that we don't need it. We got to be there.
but it's all the extra.
We got to get away from it too.
Yeah.
So Elijah, exciting things were happening under his ministry in Israel, and he liked it that way. But God had to do something fantastic to get him down there and just be alone and be quiet for a long period of time. I imagine he was eating up on the inside, because I want to do some more miracles. I want to teach some more people. I want to
make fun of Baal some more.
Yeah.
I want to mock some more prophets of Baal and have fun. Yeah.
I want to give Ahab a hard time, and I can't do it down here.
I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of truth to that. For me, in that, I think one of the things that did help me recover from some of my burnout is when I did move down here and I didn't have all that extra noise, and in a sense, God had called me here, but like it was a reset in a lot of ways for me. But I did get to spend more time with just Him. It wasn't all this extra stuff. I wasn't doing any ministry at that point in time. It helped me to do I hate to say it, but a very hard manual reset, and it was good for me. And I think again, I encourage you, if you are dealing with burnout, or you're at the season you're like, I need help. One of the biggest things is go. I hate to say stop, and there's some people that's like, well, if I stop, I'm going to let everybody down. Maybe you need to just stop, and you need to listen and spend some quiet time with God, because spiritually, again, I agree, we're mind, body, and soul, Pastor.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest aspects of our lives as not just believers, but as human beings that we miss is the spiritual health that we need to have. The spiritual and the mental health. Those things go hand in hand with each other a lot.
Sure.
And the thing is if we're not spiritually and mentally well, it'll ultimately affect us body-wise.
Yeah, it will. It'll take a toll.
We need to take those times.
So the rest that we're talking about here, when you're going through burnout, you need to talk to somebody, and you probably need to talk to somebody beside, not just God, but somebody that you can trust, somebody that understands you, that they're not going to embarrass you or whatever. That they will hear you. They won't try to tell you what to do, but it'll just say, I get what you're going through, and I'm here to pray for you. Whatever you need, I'm here. But I'm not going to tell. Now, here's what you need to do. This. You don't do that when someone's going through. They need to be heard, not told.
Yeah.
There are times when we want people, when you're hurting, you want people, tell me what to do. But sometimes what we really need is to tell people where we are, to be able to have someone that is open, that we trust, that can give us, we know they're giving us a hearing, and we know that they won't lead us in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
They won't try to control the situation, because that makes things even worse. And I think that's why God took Elijah away from everybody else, got him out there and he just had to rest and relax. And then he had to have even talking to God didn't say a whole lot until right at the end. And he was finally ready to hear God. And then after he started hearing God could speak into him and say, I still got a plan for you.
Yeah.
And it's a great plan. and he got his legs back. He got his life back. So, you know, if this is a mental, psychological, pathological disorder, you probably do need to see a professional counselor. But sometimes a friend, you know, we got some wonderful ladies in our church that are in their 80s and 90s. Oh, we got some men in our church that are in their 80s and 90s. Just to sit and talk with them is like drinking from a fresh fountain, you know, that we need. They're not demanding anything or want anything from us, but they hear us, they love us, and they encourage us. And so you can't get over this sometimes in a big crowd with so many different voices. You've got to get along with God, have a great time with God, and just relax and enjoy His presence.
Yeah.
Just relax and enjoy His presence. The world's going to wait for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get it done, you know. It's not going to come to an end. And so let's trust God in that. So there's a lot that could be said, but, you know, again, learn what's important, do the important things that we need to do, eat right, sleep right, exercise, you know, build some margin in your life so that when something comes up, you've got space for it, you know.
Learn what's,
you know what I mean?
What's important, what's urgent, what's not urgent, and what's not important. Learn how to say no. I think that's one of the biggest things to keep you from burnout. Even in friendships and relationships, learn when to set boundaries with people. I think, you know, there's times that I know in my life I've become friends with people. I can talk to a wall. I make friends with strangers. I was just thinking about it as we were talking about this. There's times that you get friendship fatigue, if you will. Like, I'm tired of hanging out with these people. I'm tired of doing this. We've got to learn when to guard ourselves against even friendship burnout, because the catch is some of those people that we need around us, if we overdose on anything, it's unhealthy. So we have to take time for yourself. Know thyself in a way.
Yeah, this might be a test. I don't know, for some of you, when the phone rings and you look at it, if you get a hole in your stomach, that might not be, that person may be wonderful, but it's not healthy for you right now.
No.
But when you look at it and your heart leaps, you know, you're excited that they're calling, that's a healthy person for you, you know.
Or text. There's some of y'all don't like phone calls. If you get a text from someone, my wife can't stand phone calls. She'd rather a text. But if you get a text from someone and you go, I don't want to answer them, it's probably not a good person. But if you get a text from someone and you know instantly, I'm like, hey, I'm going to respond. You know what I mean? You
get that text, can you call me, you know, and they may be saying it sweet, but it looks like, can you do it right now? You've got to do it right now. Mm-hmm. But maybe a better way is asking them in a more, would you like to talk?
Do you have some time?
Do you have some time? Would you like?
And so, guys, again, as we wrap up this portion of how to with Wednesday Night Live, and just to let you know, if you ever see the initials W and L, that's what we're calling this, is Wednesday Night Live. And this has been the how-to stuff, and this has been how to, ultimately this whole month is how to be a growing follower of Christ. And we're ending with, you know, how to deal with burnout. Burnout isn't a make-believe thing. I said to Pastor, I think there's a lot of different kinds of burnout. I think one of the biggest ways to avoid burnout, spiritually and just in the natural too, and as I read the scriptures, is when you start just being who you're meant to be. It's hard to be burnt out from that. You know what I mean? Like, and these are the examples I gave Pastor. I never get burnt out for breathing, because that's just who I am. I breathe. I don't really get burnt out from being a father. I get frustrated at my kids, but I don't get burnt out from being a father, because that's who I am. One of the biggest ways to help avoid burnout, to stay on the right track, is really knowing who you are in God, knowing what the Word says you are, holding on those promises, and being who you're meant to be, not just doing things that you think need to be done. I do want to address a few comments before we close it out. I saw Miss Nancy said that she was real thankful, as crazy as it is about COVID. She said she felt like she was on the verge of COVID. I saw that comment just a second ago, or on the verge of burnout, and then all of a sudden she had COVID, and she got some time alone because of it. That was good. God using something that was could be tragic, but God used it to speak to her. Kathy said
that was Jezebel threatening.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And there's Miss Kathy speaking on the same thing. we start caring for other people's burden and end up secondhand burnout. I agree. There's a lot of that. Is we feel like we have to answer or help people. We got to know who you are. You got to know who you are. You got to know what you're meant to be, and not just be a doer. Miss Debbie said sometimes we need to separate from toxic friendships and just let them come to the end of themselves. I agree. We need to really make sure that as you figure out who you're meant to be, who the Word says you are, who you were saved to be, and not just be these people that are like, oh, I'm going to do. And again, Pastor, that's who I am. I'm a doer than anything else. The reason I know how to run a soundboard is because the first time I got asked who knows how to run a soundboard, I raised my hand, had no idea because I just wanted to do. But make sure you know who you are. So, burnout isn't just depression. It can have the depression wrapped in it, but burnout is many different things. Make sure you're guarding your vessels, carrying enough oil for you, being who you're meant to be. And if you're in burnout, make sure you're taking time to devote separation, maybe from noise, sound, even people, and hearing the voice of God again in your life, taking that time out to rest, to exercise, to spend time with healthy people, and making sure, and the best thing is if you're in burnout or feeling burnout, making sure to say no to things that aren't important just because they're urgent to other people. Yeah. So with that being said, guys, we want to invite you again to join us next week at 7. We have a whole new slew of things that we're going to talk about of how to next month. Pastor starts his sermon series this Sunday. I'm in. And it's going to be an exciting month. We have a whole lot of stuff going on, and we're excited about what God's going to do here with us here at this church. So make sure you're joining us at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. In person if you want to in the Life Center, or 11 a.m. online. Guys, we love you, and I want to tell you, if no one has said it to you today, we believe in you, we believe God has a plan for you, and we believe God has a great work to be done in you, and we love you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you for joining us.